Hi, everyone. This is my favorite time of the year, and it was especially fun just to share some of the Amish and the hard work that they do and the corn shocks. That's all a part of my heritage, growing up with a Holmes County Amish, but now we're in Knox County, and we're going to visit another, it'd kill me if I said notorious, but another wonderful Flint Knapper, and I think everybody knows Ed Moreland. Pretty much just like Roy Miller, both men high integrity, the best among the best. So we're at Ed's workshop. We're down here in his yard, and we're going to go in and say hi, and he's going to add his 2 cents, maybe 3, on Preforms. So come on, let's go check it out and meet Ed, okay?
Come in, Mark.
Hey!
How are you?
You're one busy guy.
I guess.
I'll take a hug.
All right, man.
I love this guy.
How you been?
We're good.
Good.
We're good. Thanks, Ed, for this time. And
Sure.
let me just, for the sake of the viewers and
Right.
and for thankfulness for you, one of the questions I get asked so often from my followers is preforms. We find preforms out in the fields. What are they? Where'd they come from? What do they mean? You know, am I in stage 1, 2, or 3? I'm like, listen, if you're already thinking stages, you are much further than everybody else.
Yeah.
So Ed, tell us all about preforms today.
Well, I've got a selection here of Coshocton Flints and some Zaleskis, from the Zaleski area. And this piece here, we're going to start over to the left and move to the right. So this piece is just picked up out of the creek, and it has, I knocked 1 flake off of it right there just to check to see what it was like. So this has been washed out through, you know, floods and things.
So this would be like patina, natural
Yeah,
patina.
that's a patina, and you can see how dark it is on the inside.
Wow, this looks like Nelly Chert.
It is. It probably is, because it's got the fossils in it and the little specks of shells and stuff. But this was just picked up out of the creek, so I found it like this, just like ancient man would.
Okay.
So that would be just a raw piece of rock picked up right out of the creek bed. Okay?
Like can we call this a blank yet, or just raw as it is?
Just raw as it is.
Raw as it is.
Okay. So then we move to the next stage, and now you can see there's been. See these little dimples here? That's where a flake, there's a flake, there's a flake. So now what we've done is we've went ahead and at least checked across the face to make sure that this material is going to be valid for some type of point or a tool. So we flip it over, and you can see here where I took a big flake across the back.
Wow.
So that flake there could actually make a small arrowhead. But now this would be what I'd call a rough stage 2.
A stage 2 preform?
Yes, because it's a biface already. Because what is a biface? Worked on both sides. Now, being early in its stage, we still have square edges. Okay.
Okay.
So now we're going to go to stage 3/4, which now, if you look, you can start seeing we've got an ovate shape. So we've worked these edges, square edges, off to get an ovate shape. And we've also started building, let the camera see, the lenticular cross section.
I love that word.
Yeah. So what that means is flakes have been controlled to come into the center on both faces, the tip and the base. And we've determined which is the base and which is the tip. It's pretty simple, right?
Well, is there a cone of percussion on this or not?
Yeah, you can see some of the. This is all percussion work.
Okay.
There's no pressure work involved yet on this.
Okay.
So if I was at a quarry site and I was ancient man, I wouldn't take 50 or 75 of these pieces with me. I would sit down with my hammerstone and trim these pieces out, and then I could take 50 or 60, 70 of these back to camp with me and not have such a large load.
So a lot of questions are starting to formulate in my head.
Okay,
already.
we'll stop on that one there.
Okay, so I'm out. I'm a prehistoric man. I've got a flint pit. I've got a place where I'm bringing flint. At what point, if I'm going to haul this stuff, I want to know that it's going to be pure. It's going to work when I get it back to my village.
Okay, this is what this we'll say this is stage 3/4.
Okay.
We've got shape, we've got lenticular cross section. So by looking
and thinning.
Yep, we have thinned the piece. We've got rid of the square edges, and we know that okay, I can make something out of that. That'll make a knife or a projectile point.
Can I jump in?
Yes.
Now, Roy, when we were talking about this, said at this stage, this is where he heats it.
Yes.
Have these been heated, Ed?
No,
Okay.
because now if it was Flint Ridge, I would say yes. But with Coshocton flints, they're actually have enough silica in them, and for some reason it works pretty good raw. I think that's a lot of the reason why the natives use so much of it. It didn't need heat treating, and it wasn't in giant formations or big boulders like the Flint Ridge deposits are.
Okay, so the paleo people and the archaic people with the Coshocton flint probably weren't heating it.
No.
Okay.
Now there is proof that they did heat some. We can't say for certain. We'll get into that
Okay.
heating in a little later on. So now we've taken, and I have checked. So let's go back to this second stage. This tells me like, hey, this piece has possibility. All I got to do is get rid of the square edges. Next phase, I sit down and do a little bit more work, and I start getting this dorsal ridge down the center, a little flatter across this side, but now it's just a matter of some final flakes to thin it and to produce it.
Is this intentional, the ridge that's
Yes,
put on this
yes,
thing? Okay.
yeah. So now let's move to the next stage, which we could go 5 to 6 stages. This, a lot of times people will find something like this in the field. And in all reality, this can be used as a skinning knife, just the way it is. It doesn't have to have notches or anything. This could be handheld. If you're going to skin out a deer, dress a turkey, something in the wild, because that's what they had to eat on, this would serve as a knife to do that with. Now, if you notice, versus the 2 stages here, look at the thickness and the thinness. So we have taken a lot more mass out.
How about I notice also as we work on our side, you have bigger retouch or flakes taken off, and these are getting a little more intimate.
Right. So on this one, we're trying to drive off thickness.
Okay.
So you only need like 1, 2, 3 shots on each face, and that will take out that center mass. That's what I did with this piece here.
Okay.
Then if you look, you can see here's a percussion scar here, here, and here, here, and here. These were controlled, done with a smaller billet, a baton, or you could use a smaller hammerstone.
Okay.
And there's a little edge work that's done to prepare these little platforms that I hit. But I've driven it down thin, and now there's just a little bit of pressure retouch on these edges. Not much, just a little bit.
And what stage preform would you call this?
That's almost a 6, 5 or 6.
Almost at the tail end, right?
Almost at the end.
And we're beginning to see this real fine pressure retouch appear for a little bit.
Just
like
a little
that?
bit of pressure retouch
Okay.
along these edges. And the base, I've pretty much done all my pressure retouching in here. And like I said, I've found stuff like this now that's not as pretty as this or, uniform. But this could just be used as a handheld skinning knife. You're going to pull back that deer hide and you're going to pull against it and you're going to cut that membrane that holds the hide to the flesh. So that's a stage 5 or a 6 and fairly thin. So now, any questions? Lots of them.
Well, I'm looking at this and I'm actually looking at all these, and I have remembrances across the years of field walking, seeing these in the fields, picking this up. And you know what? So many people are calling us, oh, this is Hopewell. This is definitely Hopewell because it's squared off. And so maybe you could address people who are getting a little ahead of the horse.
Yeah, so from here you could make a Hopewell out of it, but here I made a Thebes. You could make an E-notch out of that. It's everybody looks at, because it's got a flat base like that, it's got to be a Hopewell blade. If you found a lot of other Hopewell items on that site, such as bladelets, or maybe little bits of pottery, or other other points that indicate it was a Hopewell site, yes, you could say it was. But I find that, and the Hopewell did use the black flints. Everybody did, but you know, a lot of these were archaic. You know, they were just making little knives to butcher with.
Can we point something out?
Sure.
Because I'm looking at these beautiful inclusions right here. Is it fair to call these quartz?
Yeah, it's quartz crystal.
Quartz crystal. And I've heard people make the statement, well, if it has quartz crystal, it has to be Flint Ridge.
No.
No, Coshocton has that, doesn't it?
Every chert or flint that I've ever been around, except for material which we call silicified mud, like Mookaite jasper out of Australia, and there's a silicified mud out of North Dakota. I've not seen any crystals in that. Now, it doesn't mean that it couldn't be, but mostly it's in your flints and your cherts where you'll find the crystals.
Okay, so this would no longer be called a final stage preform.
That is the finished product.
Is a finished product also called a final stage preform?
No, this would be so preform means it means before it's finished.
Okay.
So this one you could call this as be the final stage of a preform.
Yeah.
You know,
the black and white checkered flag is coming up.
Yeah. So here is the finished product. Still have that dorsal ridge going down through there, and you know, you've got a fairly thin point. This could actually be put into an atlatl shaft, and you could throw that as a dart point, or you could just haft it into a small short haft and make a little skinning knife, which a lot of them work, because everybody thinks these giant monster pieces. You know, I tell everybody in Flint Ridge the average size point that was found and probably used was 3.5 to 4 inches. It's just how the flint comes out. Yeah, you seen Roy had some really big pieces. They couldn't get that out. He's got that out with modern
machinery,
equipment. And, you know.
All right.
So
okay, so let's review.
Okay.
This was picked up in a creek, which they probably did. That's probably, you know what? I'm going to say that if they would be like a bloodhound on the trail of a rabbit, this might lead him to a flint pit.
Right. So if you found this and you were finding bits of flint throughout the the stream you were in, you would keep going upstream because everything washes down.
Right.
And you might, as I have found it, I've found a small ledge that's washed out right above the creek line. So when a flood come through it eroded and exposed some of it broke off. Maybe a rock come down through there or a piece of wood and knocked it.
So, okay, so prehistorically, the people found this. While
they were in the creek, they knocked 1, 2, 3 flakes off in the creek.
To see if they wanted to take it home.
To see if it was any good. And then they went to maybe where they were camping before they went back to home camp.
They said, Shazam, these are going home with me.
And they've sat down and maybe they had a couple pouches full of these, but they made these.
Yeah.
They get back to camp and they do some more fine work, do the final stages to get this down to a knife. And then, then they end up, hey, Mark, or, you'll come and say, hey, Ed, I need a knife. I need a knife blade. Okay. Or you come back and say, hey, I need a dart point. Okay, right here, we'll make you one up.
I'm going to ask another question, and this one has come up too. Let's just say, a village maybe had 20, 30 people. We're going way back in time.
Sure.
And certainly they would take people who were more naturally talented or gifted, and, you work on the flint.
Yep.
You work on the stone tools, or do you think that went on?
Oh, yeah. Because now here's the deal. This has always been, everybody was a flint knapper. No, they weren't. Not everybody's a flint knapper today, are they?
No.
Nope. So here's, I think, what happened. It's really just common sense.
I find arrowheads that if I could listen years ago, I'd hear him saying, hey, you guys, don't let Hazel knock out any points.
So I think it's safe to say that you had 1 or 2 knappers in a village, maybe just one. But as, let's say, all the guys and even some of the women, we all have to have a knife, right?
Okay.
So in modern times, if we all got a pocket knife and we all sharpen it differently.
We do?
And I've seen that. Some guy's going to take it and take it over there on that sanding belt, and he's going to sand it. Some guy's going to put it and file his knife in a vise. Some guy's going to hone his on a stone. Some guy's never going to sharpen his. You know, he'll just grind it off somewhere. But anyhow, so it's all done differently. And I've seen the retouch work on dovetails, and that tells me that they were sharpening something. Everybody did it different. So
you know what? I gotta tell you this, brother. Time has just flown by. We're going to do a part A, part B. Is that all right with you?
Oh, that's fine.
So people stay with us. We're going to just take a short break, and our videographer is just going to swoop around this room because this is a workshop that we all want to ask Santa for. So thank you, and we're going to come right back in a minute with part B. Okay?